What is up, everybody? I'm NoLucksGiven, and today we are going to be taking a look at a Fates game and talking about the removal of Bossy from Storybook Brawl. And you can see why this is a dwarf game. A pair of any sort with Fates in the opening shop is going to be worth locking for, and especially Fanny and then Cindy plus Genie's Wish, which are two of the most powerful tier 2 units in the game. So really, really strong stuff here, and we're going to be playing against Bear in this first battle, and we win, which is awesome because now we get that bonus gold from the Bear and don't have to worry about taking that bonus damage. So there's me just checking that we played against the Bear because I think I wasn't fully paying attention to the actual game as it happened. I would have loved to just play the Genie's Wish, but I don't think that it is worth locking because I'm going to want to pick up 2 units on my next turn because that is how you're really going to power spike with Fates. And that is why I like picking up Cindy. If you Fates it, then it becomes a 4/4 with +5/+5 from the Fates' hero power, but I don't think that not buying another minion is worth doing. I think that you just want to be buying 2 minions next turn and be happy enough with that. So we are going to be able to continue winning our early combats and getting to do sweet stuff like that. And I will take the eeny meeny. I mean, I'd love it to go on the kitty cut purse. Maybe I could buy like the baby dragon first, because then it could like go on the happy little tree or the kitty cut purse, but I just go with it and get it on the unit that I wanted it on anyways. So rather lucky than good, you know. And then I'll pick up the baby dragon just because it has the most stats out of anything. And sometimes you need stats against Geppetto. You never know, they could be a strong Geppetto here. And we backline the Cindy to play around their baby dragon. It's always easier to think of baby dragon once you've taken one yourself, but do try to, if you're playing some supports, stick with some other units in the backline. But this is picking up 2 Fannies at the start. There you go. They did have the baby dragon and we didn't play around it. They also have double egg. So wow, this opponent is really popping off. We're also going to lose the kitty cut purse trigger, which is unfortunate. And we also take 5 damage after being undefeated up until then. So kind of awkward to get there, but we do see another questing unit, which a 3.0 Brave Princess definitely seems like it could be good because, again, that'll turn into a 10-6 and then up to a 15-11 if we want to go that way. I will go for the Mix-a-Whizzle just to tick down on Cindy. I think at this point in the game, especially when the option is a Wizard's Familiar, it is better to cast that spell now rather than to use our 2 gold just to purchase a 1/1 that isn't really going to do too much for us. And I hope that that distinction is like made clear, like why do I think it's right sometimes to cast 1 spell for Cindy for 1 gold, and other times I don't think it's right to use 1 gold. The early game gold is super important. Now it like a 1/1 would not improve this board at all, whereas Cindy obviously would, but eventually we're going to need our units to be bigger, and that is going to require actually doubling and tripling some units. So we do see the baby dragon here, but I locked onto this shop for the Lucky plus Princess White. That was the main reason we did what we did. So we're going to pick up the Lucky now, and you can see we are kind of getting decently lucky here. I do think selling the baby dragon for just another trigger on Cindy basically is worth it here, but played against the Ghost in the last round, and now in this round we are playing up against Miri, who only has 27 health, so probably not too strong of a Miri is kind of a safe assumption at this point. But hopefully we can get this Brave Princess slain. We need 1 more spell for Cindy. We still would like another Fanny, and then did lock the Princess White. I didn't talk about it too much. Obviously, I do think dwarves are or were pretty powerful, but also yeah, the fact that it's like the only pair that we've come across certainly pushes us in a certain direction. And unfortunately, we won't be able to slay with Brave Princess, as my opponent was too weak. So there we go. Fanny definitely seems strong here, but I also want to consider this Wish Upon a Star, because we're going to be strong, especially after we take this Fanny. We could potentially be skipping and picking up some treasures, though Ring of Meteors is really good with dwarves. Jack's Jumping Bean is just really good right now. And what I'm thinking is I can take this doubly, that is a huge amount of stats, and then I can sell the Kitty Cup Purse for Wish Upon a Star, but I realize I should get my treasure from Cindy first and decide, based off what the treasures are, if I want to actually take the treasure or if I just want to skip it for some gold. Because I could skip this treasure and then pick up the doubly and the crafty selling the Kitty Cup Purse. But if I do that, then the crafty is not getting the +2/+2 that it gets from having treasures, and then the doubly is also not getting the +4 attack from just being a dwarf. You will also notice that I believe this was because they've done 2 quick patches kind of right in succession here. I believe that this is also, as I'm looking at the non-round numbers that Princess White is giving, this is on the previous version of Princess White as well, where she was giving +1/+2, so obviously that is going to add to the power of dwarves a little bit. Dwarves getting both of these tiny little nerfs in quick succession, but I do think that the Bossy nerf is going to do a lot more for the dwarves, considering the fact that the White nerf didn't really impact dwarves at all. It potentially even got better because Pumpkin got nerfed. So I figured this game was still fair play to show off for what it represents, as just a Bossy game that I didn't play on stream and can do post commentary on. So we do win that fight, which means we're going to get an extra XP, and it's definitely a thing with dwarves. They're super powerful. I'm eyeing up the Grimsoul because it could help on the Brave Princess, and then the other thing that it can do will be on 5.0 next turn, so it will potentially give us the opportunity to find a Polywoggle and use that with the Grimsoul. So we're definitely going to want to pick up the Polywoggle here, and then I'll put in the Cindy because it is an 11/9, which is pretty strong. And I don't think that the Fates typically gets to be like super strong, but when it rains it pours kind of thing with the Fates. If she is able to get a strong early lead, you can definitely snowball that with some key treasures and just upgrading some of your units, and then also getting some XP and getting ahead of the lobby that way. And there's going to be more sweet stuff to come in this video, which is another reason that I wanted to show it off. This turn is actually kind of pretty sweet in its own right. We are going to wind up attacking in with our Grimsoul, and that summons a bunch of sheep for my opponent. It also gives a trigger onto Brave Princess, but then Brave Princess gets to slay. So we complete the Brave Princess in one combat. That is pretty awesome, and now next turn we can use the Grimsoul to support the Polywoggle and get a tier 6 unit super ahead of the curve because we are up 2 XP on the lobby. Treasure map, kind of interesting because it is, well, now that we're tier 5, we could potentially pick up some 9 sea terrors, but it's also just going to be good. And I think the fact that we want to keep buying dwarves this game, like if the treasure map just triggers because we buy 3 dwarves, I'm not going to be too upset by that. I'll pick up the golden chicken here just for econ, but planning on purchasing any dwarves we run into, and then we run into some dwarves for shores on this play right here, and I definitely think we want to pick up Angry. The question is, what will we sell to pick it up? I guess we'd sell the Cindy and maintain the Lucky pair, and then potentially we're like locking doubly or something. I think that is the play. The other play would be to sell through some doublies, and we could even sell double Lucky plus the Brave here and get the additional doubly. But I do think that I want some stats, or I want some triggers on the Princess White. We're almost towards it, and do want to be able to pick that up. My opponent snipes my Polywoggle, so that is a little bit awkward, but the +2/+2 allows Angry to allow Fanny to survive, so that is pretty sweet, but we're not going to get a tier 6 unit this turn, and I think I do think that I locked that doubly, correct? Okay, yeah, I did lock the doubly. So we'll pick that up, cycle through the baby root, and now if we buy one more dwarf, we are... Sorry, I'm just fixing my camera here, and I believe, yeah, there's a Tweedle in this shop. So, we'll get a tier 5 treasure here, and that's totally fine. I'm fine with taking a tier 5 treasure. One of the reasons that I've talked about Bossy being so good for dwarves is tier 5 treasures are actually pretty good for dwarves. Staff of the Old Toad means that we'll no longer see a doubly in the shop, so it's definitely something that I want to consider. Now we are not going to be tripling this doubly, but it does mean that we're just going to be able to see more tier 5 units, and you can tell this is the pumpkin patch. I am slightly considering pivoting into pumpkins because we could pick up a whole bunch of them on 5, and the Great Pumpkin King is just so good with the Fates because everything that you summon gets that +5/+5 from the hero power. But I do think that Staff of the Old Toad winds up working out really well with dwarves, and there are just a lot of good tier 5 treasures that you can find on dwarves. And I think we're going to see some of that, or I think we saw some of that. No, that's this game. Yes, we're going to see good use of tier 5 treasures on dwarves featuring Bossy. Sorry, just having to remember, doing 2 uploads a day now, so I'm like, wait, is that this game that we're about to watch, or is that the other dwarves game that you guys saw earlier? But I believe it's this one. That's right, the other one was Celestial Tiger, right? Yeah, so this one is going to feature some more tier 5 treasures later on. Some small spoilers there, but on 5.2 here, we have the option to take the End, and we can the End the Grimsoul because we're not really using it at this point. We're dwarves, and then we can pick up our namesake Bossy, and that is going to be a pretty decent pickup for us. We'll gain 5 life, go to 49 on the Fates, and then grab Bossy. We could just roll, but I do think that Bossy is a good enough power spike for this turn that I do want to take it, and then basically just cast the End for health, essentially, as we only wind up using 3 gold to roll on this turn. So maybe if you're going to the End, you don't necessarily need to pick up Bossy, but that 3 gold that we spent rolling is actually worth a lot more than it initially appears because we do have Staff of the Old Toad. So our rolls are just worth more, going to more easily help us in finding those key dwarfs, which is really just Lordy. And that's the interesting thing with the removal of Bossy. Now it definitely just incentivizes you really into effectively skipping level 5 and just trying to some of the players joke that level 5 is just a level 6 waiting room, and the removal of Bossy definitely makes it feel more like that again, because you are really only going to power up now by finding those Lordies. Some games you're not even, I mean, maybe you'll rely on Angry a little bit more, but sometimes Angry won't even do its thing. We will lose to APOC here as their Cupid defeats us, and we lose our Needle Nose Daggers, but we're able to find Lordy pretty quickly after that. Like I said, with the Staff of the Old Toad, your rolls are just worth so much more than initially appears. We could pick up another Bossy right now, but I have to think about how Bossy is going to actually impact my battlefield. I don't know. I mean, it's early enough. I think I just want to find more Lordies and Echo Woods there, and potentially Tweedles, as I'm indicating by mousing over. Though we could cut the Fanny. The Fanny's still a little bit weak, but I think that I'd like to find some more Lordies. And there we go. There the Lordies are. So here I think I probably sell Lucky Fanny White and pick up this Lordy, and pretty happy about that to have 2 Lordies and believe in cut the Angry right now, because you have to consider the fact that we're still up in XP. We won that Wish Upon a Star early, and yeah, we're still the rest of the lobby's on 5.1. So this is still like a pretty dominating performance at this point, and yeah, just a really powerful moment for dwarves. And the Bossy isn't really doing too much for us in this game, but I did still think it was a sweet game to showcase, and we are still going to make use of it somewhat, but certainly we are going to primarily be looking for Echo Woods and then Lordies. So we will pick those two up, or just pick up this one Echo Wood, and then continue to roll for some more dwarves. And I can't really take that angry there. I think I still want to take all of the doublies that I can, and we're pretty strong right now, so the spinning gold will probably pay out. You have to remember the rest of the lobby is potentially still on 5.2 at this point, but this opponent has definitely put something together. 2 golden copycats supporting some monster books, but we have 200 units, so they're going to have to scam both of our Echo Woods in the back line if they want to win this one. And I actually remember this is a pretty suspenseful battle, because obviously we do have this spinning gold that we're playing for at the same time. We avoid all of their copycats, but they still have monster book triggers. We're going to avoid the first one, which means that we've won the fight. They'd have to scam both of our Echo Woods, and they are going to scam one, but it's too late. We already hit them, and we get some extra cash, and we're going to spend that cash on a Lordie upgrade. And we're playing up against the Ghost. The Ark doesn't work. Ninth Book of Merlin doesn't work. Let's take Pandora's Box, and then we can slide this Bossy back in. Could potentially consider the Hercules, but the fact that this game is almost over means this Hercules probably just doesn't do enough for us. I could consider the Bossy, but we are going to keep rolling on. I will pick up the Tweedledee just because it has such good synergy with the Echo Woods, so I'm reasonably happy about that. I think the Bossy might go in. I mean, it doesn't really matter. We're playing up against the Ghost, so none of this should matter here. But I will lock another Echo Wood. That is obviously really sweet, and then we will be having the Tier 7 treasure from Pandora's Box next turn, and then we still have that Jack's Jumpin' Bean that we picked up on really early in the game. I don't remember what turn, but now it's pumping our Echo Woods, so there you go. And half of the units that it can land on as well. If it lands on the doubly, that's ×2, and then if it lands on the Tweedle, that is ×3. If you ask me, Tweedle's really the problem with dwarves. It's super, super strong at all stages, and it actually triples all pumps that get put on it. Yeah, that just winds up being really strong. The Ghost is playing a ton of scams, so this could get a little bit scary. They're going to steal a pair of Tweedledees from us. Oh, they steal even more than that because they've got Reduplicator. So they just steal a whole ton of Tweedledees, but what we really have to worry about here is the pumpkin. I don't really care about the Tweedledees too much, though. The Tweedledees in conjunction with the pumpkin, I mean, these Tweedledees are a ton of stats. I was just talking about how good it is, and now it feels bad to have it used against us. My opponent is going to get a full board from the pumpkins, but what will they spawn? No scams are to be had, so we'll just have to slowly take out these things, and then we'll finally find out what's in our Pandora's box. What's in the box? It is going to be a... I realize there is still a little bit more combat to go, but we are going to be getting a Holy Grail. That might be the title of the video. I'm not sure, because it's Holy Grail on what is probably going to be the last turn of the game, but we'll also take the Echo Wood, get some stats from that, finally toss the Jack's Jumpin' Bean, throw that Bossy back in there, and then there's 2 more Bossies. And I really consider locking this. There's no need to Forbidden Fruit to pick these Bossies up. But here's the thing, we're gonna Holy Grail next turn. So like we'll just start next turn by picking up both of the Bossies. We don't need to buy one right now. We could also just use 4 gold to roll right now and try to find more Lordies and Echo Woods and potentially Tweedle. That could give us more stats. That might be better. So I'm going to roll, and then I decide to lock Tweedle. I think that that's good because we could potentially get Dwarven Mine off of it, or Dwarven Forge rather. And I'll end this turn by throwing just a few more stats on Tweedle. Maybe I could have rolled a little bit more, even so. It's a tight call. It's a tight call. My opponent goes for the Shrivel. It doesn't hit the Echo Wood. It does take a few stats off of us, but is ultimately going to wind up being fine for us. Just a little bit awkward. But my opponent has a large Lancelot and then a large Jormungand, and that is really it. So we are going to be able to beat them here, even despite this Phoenix Feather. So all we have to worry about now is... I mean, we just won. We don't have to worry about anything, but we've got a Holy Grail. So that is what we are going to do for now. I'll skip this treasure and let's just pick up basically... I mean, I'm going to take the 9 Sea Terrors there. You see a pair of 9 Sea Terrors. We'll grab this, and then we grab a Hand of Midas. So I'm not grabbing this Bossy. I'm grabbing this Lordy, and we've just made our board, like, extremely more powerful in this final turn. And you will see now, I do pick up another pair of 9 Sea Terrors, actually. Probably should have taken the Ambrosia there, and especially if you saw my video earlier today doing the Ambrosia trick on my Twitch stream, you'll know why, but I do think it is important to note that I'm rolling past all of these Bossies here, and the reason for that is if I just find one Lordy or one Echo Wood, or honestly, even if I triple this Tweedledee, I should be playing that over the backline Bossy. The backline Bossy just isn't doing that much for us, and that is why I think this is kind of an interesting game. I'm even going to decline to Knighthood that. I probably should have Pigomorphed somewhere in this mess, especially as my opponent was running a Jormungand comp, and that would have messed with them in some capacity, but I do triple the Tweedledee. Not going to be able to put it in time, but that is totally fine. We're going to get a ton of stats. My opponent's Lance is going to come back from the Phoenix Feather, and we are going to just narrowly miss the Jormungand, but you can see my opponent's got double Jormungand now. But we have an absolutely massive Echo Wood, and that should hopefully be enough to take my opponent down. But awkwardly, it's going to just be... I mean, it's not really awkward. It's going to be Echo Wood versus a pair of Jormungands, and there's not really anything that my opponent can do. My Echo Wood is just way too big because we've got 2 upgraded Lordies and then an upgraded Tweedle, so that is going to be enough by itself to take my opponent out. But I do think this game was really interesting in a few different ways. Obviously, we did really make use of the Tier 5 treasures. We didn't for the most part in the game, and it's kind of unfair to say that we did because we were already winning and then we Holy Grailed. So maybe that last turn didn't matter, but my opponent did add a second Jormungand to the board, so they might have been powerful enough that if we didn't get this much more powerful, then maybe we were in trouble. But you can see all the Tier 5 treasures really in action, mainly Staff of the Old Toad, but then also Hand of Midas, Ambrosia, and Mimic Chest, all 4 being quite good Tier 5 treasures. Mimic Chest, ideally you want to double a Phoenix Feather, not the Owls, but even so, the Owls gave us some stats and made the Echo Wood larger too. But I think this was definitely a fun game that I played. It was a pretty strong game on the Fates. Maybe it didn't say that much for Dwarves or Bossy as a whole, but definitely said something for Staff of the Old Toad on Dwarves, which is just going to be less common now because you aren't going to be tripling those Tier 5 units quite as much. Of course, this game we did get it by treasure map plus completing Princess White, which will still certainly be a thing, but won't be as common grabbing these Tier 5 treasures on Bossy. As you can see, like Angry, I had 1 for a point, I think that was this game. Sorry. Putting out multiple Dwarves games in the same day certainly has my brain fried a little bit. Plus, I've just been playing so much Dwarves. They're all kind of starting to blend together, and hopefully we can all start to see Dwarves a little bit less. But that's going to be it for me for this video. Thank you guys very much for watching. I'm NoLucksGiven. Peace.